Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition, our Let's Play series against XTRG, where we play through the Pacific War one day at a time. Today we're going to be looking at the turn replay of March 5th, 1942, and we will be issuing our orders for March 6th, 1942. We're doing okay in some... Well, actually, let's just get right into it. Japanese have started landing troops at Tarakan. They were landing a naval guard unit, and our coastal batteries got a good licking in on at least one of the Japanese landing ships last turn. It looks like they're continuing landing more troops in the PM phase, or the early AM phase, I guess, the early morning hours. And there's a lot of shells outgoing that are hitting some of these Japanese ships here. Looks like they've got a couple of light ships that are trying to take out our guns, but we've got 120 millimeter coastal defense guns that are tearing apart that first cargo ship. They didn't really hit much else, but you can see 8 shell hits into the Mexico Maru. Heavy fires, heavy damage. Hopefully she goes down and sinks. It doesn't look like there's anybody on them, though. They must have just been dropping supply, because I don't see any casualty figures. Can you guys remind me, last turn, the ship that we hit 17 times, that wasn't the Mexico Maru, right? That was an AP, I think. So that was a good start to this turn for those coastal guns at Tarakan. I didn't realize we had such a strong coastal battery there. I knew we did at Ambon, but I think we sank another AK last turn as well. So we may have gotten 2 AKs here off of Tarakan. I'm hoping maybe he underestimated. Maybe he really needs like 2 SNLF units or something like that in this vicinity. Meanwhile, Dutch subs firing torpedoes at a Japanese destroyer here off the coast of Rockhampton. I'm guessing this is the mini Kidobutai, or maybe it looks like he split his force into 2 task forces here. You can see he's firing depth charges at the Dutch submarine here. Looks like we dove underneath where he's going to set his depth charges to. So they dropped they dropped depth charges after we tried to torpedo them, but no damage to that Dutch sub, so that's a good start there. The O-21 firing torpedoes. Yeah, we got a hit on a Japanese cargo ship here, the Toba Maru. We put 1 torpedo into the side of it. It is on fire. Why did we have to get a hit but no explosion with a Dutch sub? Give me a break. It wasn't even a Mark 14. Couldn't we get 2 hits there? That probably would have put it down, but no matter what, I'll still take the damage. Something just sank, by the way. I just got the gurgling water noise, which means that a ship has sunk. So I don't know if it's the cargo ship off Tarakan, or if it's the ship we just torpedoed off of New Guinea. Fast transports dropping troops on the island of Celebes. That's fine. All those are backwater bases anyway. Japanese shipping continue to try and drop troops here at Tarakan. You can see the coastal guns continue to hammer those Japanese cargo ships as they try and come in here. The Keiko Maru taking some hits from 75 millimeters, and there was a 120 millimeter shell straight into it. Let's hope we can get a couple of ships sunk. We've sunk very little in the way of Japanese shipping, so it would be great if we can get a couple of ships sunk here. TN Longfellow, yes, the game is still available for purchase. It's not on Steam. You have to buy it through matrixgames.com, but you can purchase it from them. It is very expensive. They do run sales from time to time. I think it was like $20 like a couple months ago, but it is on average like a $90 game. I think in terms of what your expectations for pricing of this is, don't compare it to other PC games. Compare it to like really big board games, which cost about the same. Okay, 10 shell hits into the Keiko Maru, so we got the Mexican Maru, and then we got the Keiko Maru, so 2 Japanese cargo ships taking serious damage from our 75 millimeter and 120 millimeter coastal guns here at Tarakan. Didn't hear any gurgling noises, though. I thought for Easter charcoal it was like 16 USD, but I could be wrong. Okay. Fast forward. Okay, we're coming back in. The Keiko Maru is still trying to gut it out here, taking more shells here, 120 millimeters. I think that was a bad idea by those Japanese soldiers. They probably should have pulled back and tried to get to shore and get repaired. But if they want to come back in, I'm totally happy with ripping them apart a bit. He had his battleships near Ambon not that long ago. I'm not sure where they've been lately, Pat. All right, so we'll just fast forward through that. You can see 24 more shell hits and heavy damage to the Kaiko Maru. I would love to get some hits on the patrol boats and torpedo boats. This is really more like an undersized destroyer, this torpedo boat here. But that was a very good... yeah, maybe he'll move his battleships into Tarakan next after taking all this damage. I don't know. Hopefully it's at least destroying some supply on these ships that he's going to have to... Oh shit, surface task force attack! Japanese subs going after an AKL. I don't even know what was on this ship. Where was it going? That AKL's going down. One shell hit, one torpedo hit. Interesting that it fired a shell before it fired a torpedo. You would think you wouldn't want to. You'd want to do it the opposite way. All right, so that AKL sinks. I can't remember where those guys were coming from or what was on them. Japanese float planes, looks like Magnus floating boats detecting some shipping down near Norfolk Island, I think it was. Damaging some Kates here with flak near Timor. I wonder if he's got another light carrier out that way. We haven't... I guess they could be based off the islands if he doesn't have the mini Kido Butai entirely formed off the coast of Australia. Although I think by the size of the air wings, it would certainly imply that. Okay, we're getting some patrol over Japanese shipping here heading south of Palmyra. Another Japanese bombing raid with some Nels over Surabaha. Maybe that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. I pronounce it slightly different every time because it's always wrong. More Nels, more problems, maybe? I don't know. All right, 43 Sally, so he's making a serious effort here now over Bataan, although 10 Sallies damaged by flak. That's a lot of damage. He's coming in a little bit low, I think, 18,000 feet. 1 destroyed, 10 damaged out of 43 aircraft coming in here. He's obviously trying to make a concerted effort here to start reducing our supply concentrations at Bataan, but he's taking a bit of a beating from his bombers doing it. Meanwhile, his attack aircraft returned to Singapore after... 2 or 3 days since our carrier fighters savaged his second-line fighters and bombers over Singapore. You can see one Mary was hit by flak. He did get 1 runway hit on there. Be interesting if that's all he sent. Meanwhile, 3 B-17Es flying over Savi. 2 of them took some flak damage. It'll be interesting what he has there. Oh, it's because I came in at 2,000 feet. I think I was trying to do a port attack there, if memory serves. I thought we detected some Japanese shipping in the port, but I could be wrong. Surabaya. Surabaya. Another ship just sank. I'm guessing that was the Kaiko Maru. Okay. So our Dauntlesses are detecting Japanese submarines out that way. Curious if it gives away the position of the carriers or not. I mean, he already knows they're in the Indian Ocean, but I don't know if he knows where they're going, whether they're going north toward India or whether they're going south toward Australia. Surabaya. Okay, recon over Savi. I'm curious to see what he has there. I ordered some Catalinas to fly recon over Savi, so we could get a look at what he might have at that base. The O-21 firing more torpedoes at Japanese shipping here at Leh. No hits there, though, unfortunately. That Dutch skipper being a little bit aggressive, which is nice to see. Meanwhile, some temporary flotation failure on our troop transport that we're trying to get out of Vavu down to New Zealand. Another cargo ship is getting in at the action at Tarakan here, the Omi Maru. You can see our coastal guns really like feasting on these Japanese cargo ships. Hopefully we can get a third one. The irony of this is it's not really all that big a deal. Like, even if we sink 3 or 4 of the guys, as nice as that would be, like, we should be sinking 3 or 4 cargo ships with subs every 3 or 4 days, and we're not even getting close to that. But I will certainly take any damage that these Dutch guns can do for us. They certainly must have a lot of ammo there, Charcoal. You're right. All right, let's fast forward through this. Let's see what happens here. 9 shell hits on the Omi Maru, heavy damage. 5 shell hits on the Daido Maru on fire. 2 shell hits on the Kanko Maru on fire. Also, it looks like these guys were carrying additional troops, so 82 casualties, 1 squad destroyed, 5 disabled. That's what I like to see. Probably on these 2 that are on fire here at the bottom. So he must have sent another task force in on that. So the task force is retiring due to damage. TF-131 retires from Tarakan due to damage. I'm guessing they didn't even unload their troops. I'm not sure what our fort level is there, like a G-Man. I'd have to check. Japanese shock attack at Henan. I'm hoping he destroys the 46th Infantry Corps so I can rebuild it at Chongqing with 1/3 its force. That's why I keep sending it in, by the way. I want it to die. I'm sending those troops in because I want them to be obliterated. Yeah, he destroyed them. Not that I wanted to give him 118 non-combatant casualties or 14 infantry squads, but that is the result I want, because I'll get a stronger force back here in like 60 days. So there he goes. Finally destroys it there. Another Japanese deliberate attack here by a guard unit to the south against a fractured corps of our own. Japanese shock attack to the west of Haichao. They retreat towards Xi'an, which is not that direction, so that's an interesting way to retreat. Allied bombardment attack at Tarakan. I don't know why I ordered a bombardment attack. I thought I ordered them to stop their bombardments. You can see the 81st Naval Guard unit is still the only unit he has ashore. Much better assault strength than we do, but hopefully if we stay on the defensive, we can hold. We do have an oil-producing facility at Tarakan as well, so my hope is that that will lead to additional supply being generated for our troops to really force them to bring extra reinforcements in. Koavokan, I didn't see anything that landed, though, which makes me wonder how much really got ashore. Suleiman M., thank you for the follow. Appreciated. I think it's just an oil well, but oil wells do generate supply as well. So oil wells generate like 2 oil and like 1 supply every 1 level of oil well, and then refineries turn oil into supply and fuel as well. It's not a very big one. There's not a lot of fuel there, but it's generating. It had been generating the supply that we were slowly siphoning into the Philippines. Also, who knows? Maybe the fighting in and around Tarakan will lead to more damage to the facilities. 10 refinery, or refinery equals 10 oil in, 9 fuel, and 1 supply out. Elros, the manual isn't just lacking, it's also wrong in a lot of cases. All right. Okay, so we've got the 2,600 Japanese troops ashore, 2,600 men. We've got our forces ashore. Stop bombarding. Just sit in on defense. Oh, we only have level 1 forts. I guess I hadn't been building up there. That's a miss by me. Although we only had 8 engineers, so that probably wouldn't have changed much. You can see it has refinery and oil, so 90 oil. Why is production on? Oh, I can't turn it on. That's why. Turn repair off. And then the refinery, apparently I forgot to turn that off as well. But it's got a 90 refinery, 90 oil. You can see here there's about 44,000 fuel in Tarakan. Which is a mistake on my part. I really should. If I had turned the oil off, or the refinery off, then he would build up a large glut of oil, but not actually be able to use it very well. So fuel is great for him because he can just instantly start using it in his ships. Although you can use oil, but it's not a good idea. It drives systems damage on your ships. But you can use fuel to send it anywhere you want right away. What I've done at Palembang is I have turned off the refinery. You can't turn off the oil wells, though. So you can see here it's built up a massive glut of oil. 771,000 units of oil are at Palembang, but only 6,000 fuel. And the reason I've done that is because the refinery here is huge. The refinery is, what is it, 1,200? Or 1,100, or sorry, 1,020. The oil is 900. So you're always going to be able to refine a little bit more than the oil you produce at Palembang. But by turning this off, I've basically created a massive glut of oil that he can't just refine into fuel in Palembang, and he's going to have to either ship it to Singapore and then clear the way throughout Indochina and China. I think he has to take Nanning. And if he takes Nanning and he takes, I think it's Luqiao, if he takes these two cities, then he can move the oil via these roads all the way to either the east coast of China and have a really short transit route to Japan, or he can move it directly from Korea, which really minimizes the impact your submarines can have. If Japan can clear all the relevant objectives in China, they can really kind of cheat in a way, right? Like there was no pipeline of that distance, but the game kind of lets you do it. Or he'll at least have to ship it out of Sumatra to Japan to refine it. So, in either case, it is good to turn off your refinery in Palembang. Also, he's going to suffer a lot of damage, so whenever he takes this, he'll probably lose like half the production in damage, and it'll take him like a year to get it back up to full production. So that huge amount of oil is going to be really nice for him, but he's going to have to ship it somewhere. And so, until he... So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's good that we're going to force him to ship that, and he won't immediately be able to just push it forward to his Kido Butai or any of his other task forces and just start using it like that. Because he doesn't have a lot of oil at Palembang, or fuel at 6,000 at Palembang, and I think we pulled 18,000 south to Oosthaven for the tanker that we were filling up. And speaking of the tanker we were filling up, you can see here that the Strix finished loading up 6,600 oil, that's why it's orange, and is on its way back to Perth. So it is heading south toward Perth. It has no detection. It is in heavy rain. We're going to change its... actually, we'll keep it on high speed until the next turn. It doesn't have enough fuel to get all the way back on high speed, but I think we'll keep it at full speed just for one more turn so we can try and clear out of here a little bit. Meanwhile, we also have a tanker filling up at Tijilap with fuel, so we're pulling fuel out of Java, which has about 3,000 fuel there. Surabaya has about 40,000 fuel and 15,000 oil. I think we still had the refinery on there because we were operating fleet assets out of there, so I needed the fuel for my shipping. But we have turned the refinery off here. So the 170 refinery is shut off now, and so an oil glut will start building up there. Wish you could have had the oil facilities make the photos of Iraq during the Gulf War look tame. Nah. So they do suffer quite a bit of damage. So that definitely is something that occurs for this shipping. All right, so these guys should be out of there here this turn. The tanker's at 97% capacity, so he should be out of here as well starting this turn. And he has no recon over Tijilap at the moment either. Again, probably because of extreme overcast here and heavy rain over here, so that limits his patrol capabilities. Meanwhile, I moved some PT boats out of Palembang down here because I thought he might be making a move towards Semarang, but it looks like I might be wrong, so I think we'll move these guys back up to Palembang. Well, apparently they can't make it there, so maybe we won't. I thought I moved some of them down, though. Oh, these guys here. Sorry. So we'll leave these guys here. Their commander's aggressive, right? Yes, he's the most aggressive we have. Max React 6. Retirement allowed. Home base Semarang on the coast. I don't think these patrol boats will do anything, but it'd be great if we could intercept a convoy or something like that. Meanwhile, we're going to send this task force back north to Palembang. It'll rejoin there. There's a couple of ships that are at Palembang as well that are currently repairing. A couple of patrol boats. So we've got one of them is already repaired. The other 3 will be ready in the next 2 days or so, so we'll have a force of PT boats there to help defend Palembang from enemy attack. Palembang is building forts up there at level 2. They're almost to level 3, so there's a chance before he takes it we might be able to get him to level 3. Its defensive units are not very strong, only 118 assault value. We didn't go with the Fortress Palembang strategy. We do have a garrison unit of 36 assault strength that is on the way to Palembang. Depending on how soon he lands there, they may get there in time. Meanwhile, these Lodestars, were we getting the RAF group out? So we did get 144 of the 223 RAF group has gotten out to Medan, or or however you pronounce that. That does leave how much left of this group? Still, holy crap. Their load cost is 1,000? I didn't realize they were that big. That's going to take like 10 days to get them out. Also, 3 of our transport aircraft all were damaged. Mass Wolf, thanks for the follow. He lost 3 Sallys, 2 ops, 1 flak, probably from the guys over Bataan. 2 Sonias, both ops losses. 1 Mary to flak, 1 Kate. We lost 2 Catalinas, 2 different variants, and a B-17 to flak over Savi, I assume. And then a PBY and a Blenheim 4. I might need to bring more aircraft south here. All right, where's this other unit here? These guys are on Enterprise and they're at Singapore. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and transfer these guys to Batavia. And then once they get there, we're going to go ahead and disband them. We'll send the planes and pilots to the pools, because that's a way you can kind of fudge the system. You can see the plane instantly goes to the pool. The pilot will get there in a little while. Meanwhile, we've got our 7 Blenheim IFs that are performing cap at night over Singapore. Apparently he's not bombing at night anymore, so let's see what our guys can do during the day. Probably not much. They're 2 engines and they're slow as frick, but anyway. Meanwhile, how are our hurricanes doing? We're trying to get these hurricanes at Batavia up to snuff, so you got 2 of them that are ready here, 2 out of 12 that are getting ready. The planes themselves, we'll get 2 more tomorrow. We're going to basically be a week away from getting this squadron fully operational in their new aircraft. Meanwhile, this F4, F3 is going to go ahead and disband. They go to the pool, so it's going to be 4 of them now in the pool as our carriers withdraw south. Carriers are withdrawing south. It is partially cloudy. It says he has no visibility into where they're at. We have 2 tanker... No, not those guys. We have 2 tanker task forces coming up to meet them. This tanker task force here with the Dutch oilers, the TAN 5 and 6 are coming up with 3,000 fuel. They'll probably link up next turn and refuel them. I think their orders are to refuel them. Yep. And then... Yeah. And then... So I think this refuel, do not refuel, is set so these guys don't refuel each other at sea, but they should still refuel the task force they're meeting, Task Force 258. And then we've got this other guy coming up here with another 9,000 fuel here, meeting 258 as well. So we'll put 13,000 fuel into 258. 258's the larger of the task forces with the 3 carriers. So about 13,000 fuel is going to go into all of them. That's not enough to replenish all of the carriers, but it is enough probably to top their tanks off. They're still at like 76% fuel on the carriers. The destroyers are a little bit less, but they'll pull fuel from the carriers anyway. And then I think after next turn, I'm going to send these guys west and maybe around Australia. I think with that additional fuel, that'll be enough to get our carriers into Melbourne so we can reposition without him knowing. I'm definitely not going to go into port at Perth. I don't want him knowing where I am, or at least knowing for sure where I am. These guys are moving southwest, so they're moving this way. Also, what did he sink over here? He sank an AKL that was over here, didn't he? What was that guy with? I don't even know what ships that would have been part of. Meanwhile, we're unloading some supplies and some troops. So you can see elements of the 6th Australian Division still coming ashore. We've got elements of the British anti-tank and light anti-air coming ashore. And we've still got elements of the 6th Australian Division over here as well. Are any of these units docked? Well, these guys are. So how much progress are they making in unloading? It seems like they're moving so freaking slow. Still 76. 12, so that ship's making progress. And 34. So they are unloading oh so slowly. The 6th Division is still in strat mode, which is going to have them... Wow, I didn't realize they were 469 in terms of their assault value. It's pretty damn good. But I'm going to move them to the East Coast once they're done unloading. You can see a lot of supply coming ashore with these guys as well. Some elements of the other units that just arrived are also coming ashore here. The 6th Heavy Anti-Aircraft Regiment with 3.7-inch anti-aircraft guns should be nice if we end up in a battle for Australia. Looks like they're the only ones that have started to come ashore. Unless also the coastal gun? I don't think so. I think they're a different unit. The anti-tank group still isn't ashore. Okay, so that's the situation in Perth. You know, part of me thinks I should set the waypoints further out. So let's set them over here. Then over here. Actually, I should set the new destination. I should clear all waypoints and then set the home port to be Melbourne. Melbourne. And then return to Melbourne. And then use our waypoints. And then I think the task forces that are meeting with them will auto-adjust. So we'll swing them a little bit west of Perth. Wow, they're going to go way south. Okay, that works. All right. So we'll do that. We're going to send the carriers to Melbourne for now. And then the other task force will follow. The Yorktown will follow. Yorktown doesn't have as much fuel. I wonder why. Are they refueling the other task force? What are these guys? Task Force 276? All right, we'll have them meet 276 and refuel 276. I think they need the fuel more right now. We'll do that. No, I'm okay with the... I know coastal routing might be enabled. I guess we can... It's coastal and normal. I guess we can set it to... Okay. Sean Mack, I am fine with their names right now. I'm hoping we leave these subs in our dust. I'm guessing he's got... I mean, we know he's got subs off the northeast coast of Australia as well, because he just sank that AK. I'm hoping we're giving him enough of a wide enough berth. But we'll see. So that's the situation there. We're also moving the ABDA headquarters to Burma via air, slowly but surely. So you can see ABDA-1, 11 support are here. If we take a look at the unit organization, we have elements of it at Batavia still. We've got elements of it at Rangoon, and then we've got elements of it at Sabang. We're stringing together some transport. We've gotten 20 of the support into Rangoon. We've got 12 of the support at Sabang, and then we've still got 10 of the support at Batavia. But that actually means that the bulk of the force is out of Batavia. There's only 132 left of the cargo. And so the ABDA task force is, or the ABDA headquarters is almost fully pulled out of Batavia. And I think once we get ABDA out of Batavia, we would then focus on getting the British air headquarters out of Singapore if we can. Meanwhile, we've got, one other option is doing some sub-transport. So these guys are pulling back into Singapore to get some more fuel and to get some ammunition. One other option is we could load these guys up with elements of the British RAF headquarters unit and send them up via sea. I don't know how much transport they can do. Probably not 1,000. But I wish I could reduce the torpedo ordnance. I only have the option to get torpedoes. I would rather get rid of the torpedoes. Could I send the Hermes out on ASW? I could, but I'd be more worried about sending the Hermes out on ASW task force and it getting torpedoed because it's so damn slow. Also, it would kind of give away the fact that I have a carrier there, which right now I'd rather him not know for sure where my carriers are. One option might be to send the Hermes out in like a week and then do some ASW out in this area so then he thinks we're still in the area once we're past here. But I don't see any reason to send the Hermes out to where our carriers already are to give away the position. Upgrade on, then you should reverse the torpedo to 0. So you're saying turn upgrades on? How do I do that? So if I turn upgrade on like this, will it then cause it to drop? sure. We'll give it a try. I'm assuming the torpedoes add to the difficulty in terms of its load cost, but I could be wrong there. Meanwhile, I think we looked at Tarakan already. It's got plenty of supply. It also produces its own supply there. How's the Batavia fortification? What were they, like 54% last turn? Or 52%? They're 53%. So they are building super slow. They've got 77 engineers and 1 engineer vehicle. They can't make like any progress toward level 4. Can't move the base force there. It's a static force. Can't move these guys because they're a static force. And 8 engineers with no vehicles isn't going to do much. Is there anybody at Surabaya that might help? Static. They have engineers, but they don't have... They got a lot of aviation support there, too. There's no reason to leave these guys. Like a G-Man, there aren't more base forces to put there. Almost all of the base forces that are back here are mostly static, or adding 3 or 4 engineers, which won't really make a difference. I'd rather at least have him see an intelligence that there's, you know, a reason that he doesn't want to land there completely unopposed. If I pull these base forces out of some of these bases where they can move, it's just going to give him an unopposed landing, which I don't want to do. Okay. All right, so we've got our Buffaloes. They're still flying cap over Batavia. Or 2 Buffaloes there. It's less about them putting up a fight, co-evoking, and it's more about him seeing that there are men there. Oh, these guys, the reason we lost these guys is because we have no aviation support here. That's why. Or we've got 4 and we've got 12 aircraft. Meanwhile, I am bringing the Medina or Medan base force south. So that should help. That'll bring 8 more aviation support in, so it should be enough for that transport group. I'm kind of thinking... Can't move the... Well, Let's see. What's the service rating on this aircraft? 2? I can fly 50. Can I get them into here? I didn't even look at the headquarters. Yeah, I transferred them to Medan right away. Nice. So the first thing I'm going to do with these 8 Hudsons is I'm going to go ahead and do... Oh, shoot, they can't do troop transport. They can only do supply transport. Fuck! Why'd I do that? So dumb. I could reload the save, but I haven't saved anything else I've done so far. $12 ops losses, Pat? For who? Us or them? I don't see 12 aircraft lost total on either side. Oh, for those guys? The DC-2? That's because they're flying over the hump, guys. It's because they're flying into China. You lose a lot of ops losses when you're flying, especially extended over mountains. It is not efficient. Stein2883, thanks for the sub. Appreciate it. And the Imperial Sardauker, thank you for the follow as well. I don't even know what I'm set these guys to. It doesn't even say. They're not even set to rest, or they're not even tired. You can see there. The plane fatigue levels aren't even high either, although one of them is. I can't choose how many to... Well, I guess I can choose how much to rest like this. I could do that, I guess. You can just set everybody to that at the base. Part of me wants to see if I can move the DC down. Although I don't think they have the range, really. Like a G-Man, thanks for the bits. The Lodestars are Dutch, but they're not restricted. Where are they going to again? Transferring them where? Oh, they're just bringing them into Meaden. All right, we're going to move these guys up north to Sabang. We're going to move all the elements to Sabang, where we're then going to fly them out, since Abda's almost out. And then we'll switch our focus from Abda to the British guys at Singapore. Can also use these Catalinas to fly them out, too. These two Fulmers. Are there any ships they can reach? Can they reach the carriers? No. So we'll go ahead and disband this group and send these guys to the pools. Let's also transfer these guys north to Meaden. Oh, can't get there, apparently. Get them to Padang? And then to Meaden? Oh, God, I'm picking another bomber, not a transport. What am I doing? I thought... the problem is it looks exactly like the Lodestar. They look the same damn thing. They got portholes for the people watching. Come on, man. Hey, Retnav. Thanks for the follow. Appreciated. Do I have any float planes or anything else down here that's just kind of hanging out? The DOs might be able to, right? Yeah, they can do troop transports. They also can fly a long fucking way. You know what I'm going to do? No, I want to move them... All right, these guys have 3 aircraft. Well, the problem is I need to keep some naval search over here. I can't just pull all my aircraft out. These guys can do troop transports, but they kind of suck because they're super short-ranged. Catalinas here are already busy. I think we'll just have to live with the reality that we're probably not going to get any of the entire units out. Meanwhile, these guys were at like, oh, nice. So they're up to 67% of the way to level 3 forts. I think they were at like 38% last turn. So there's a chance we might get to level 3 forts before he attacks us again, especially if he keeps the bombing light. Now, presumably he's going to bring heavier bombers into Singapore, but if we can get those forts back up to level 3, that would be great. Great. We also got the assault value back over 800. Braden Dancer, thanks for the follow. Appreciated. So I think, feeling just a little bit, probably shouldn't because it'll get ahead of me, but I'm feeling just a little bit optimistic that maybe we can get these fort levels up to 3, so then when he attacks again, he's surprised that it's still at level 3, even if his engineers reduce it down to 2. If we can repeat the last battle's results, and that it only drops to 2 instead of 1, that may put back the fall of Singapore by another 3 or 4 days. And it may also force him to bring more of his sallies away from Bataan and bring him over here to really start crushing Singapore down. What's the runway situation like? Not even damaged. That's good. Meanwhile, let's take a look at Rangoon. So we have the 18th British Division, which is still packing up. It looks like they're done packing. So they're going to start railing down to Rangoon. What's their rest situation look like? They're at 25 fatigue and 12 disruption. Okay, so I definitely want to get them into Rangoon where they can rest a little bit. Just like the 1st Burma Division is. They're at level 2 fatigue, resting. Also, we're setting the 46 to rest. So actually, even though these guys are in the malaria zone, when they set to rest, their fatigue drops pretty substantially. So that's interesting. Yeah, Pat, I know they can't transport out of the Dutch bases, but if I can get them to Meaden, then I can use some of the other aircraft, like at Rangoon. I could probably bring some B-17s. Can the B-17s transport, or they, because they're bombers, they can't. They can only do, yeah, they can only do supply. But what about the LB-30? That's also considered a bomber? I thought maybe that was a recon. In any event, we could bring the DCs down and maybe fly or something like that to pick up troops. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Indian Infantry 42 squads do I have, Pat? Probably not many. Joey, thanks for the follow. I only recently turned off my draw replacements and upgrades, so that means I probably don't have many troops in the pool. So if we take all nationalities out, we just leave Indian. You can see here we have 34 motorized support in the Indian pool. We've pulled 1,747. Jeez. We build 600 motorized support, though. That's the one thing the Commonwealth seemed to get a lot of. Apparently, we don't build any Vickers. We build them for a very short period of time, and then it turns off. Or maybe we're not... Yeah, that's weird. Stuart Light Tanks, we've got 7. We're building 1 of those a day, so that's actually better. Indian 43, we've got 3 squads in pool. We're building about 1.5 a day. So it's going to be a while before we have a meaningful number of those. What about the U.S. Army? How are we doing there? We've got a lot of field guns for them. 66 Filipino Army rifle squads. USM heavy machine gun sections. Para squads, cavalry squads. Where's the U.S. infantry? Do we have nothing? 41 combat engineer squad. Did I pass it already? PA or Filipino Army, aren't they? Not U.S.? U.S. heavy machine guns. We get 25 of those a month. 600 motorized support. That must not be national. That must be across all the countries. Then that's not Indian specific. Oh my God, we're making 4 M3 light tanks per month. I'm Whippets. Thanks for the follow. Seriously, what the hell? U.S. rifle squads. We have 0 in the pool. We've used 172, and we're building 2 a day, basically. So that sucks. Good thing is the U.S. units are actually kind of decent. What about the British? What does their replacement pool look like? Because we've got the 18th British Division. Brens and AMGs. Valentine tanks. We're building 4 of those a month. 25 pounders. Okay. Indian cavalry. British infantry section. 12 a month. Oh my God. Yeah. We're kind of screwed. What about the Australians? What do they got? 55 AIF sections a month. So almost 2 a day. That's a much better situation. Winterwolf, the situation in the war. It is March of 42. High-level situation. Singapore is still in Allied hands. We're still holding there. It's only a matter of time till it falls. I think I was hoping to hold out till around the 15th of March. It could be longer depending on how his attacks develop. It could be shorter. He launched an attack 2 days ago that reduced our fort level a bit, but it's still at level 2, and it might actually get to level 3 before he attacks again, depending on how aggressive he is, so that could be good for us. Could buy us out toward the middle of the month. Java and Sumatra have not been attacked yet. I would expect him to kind of come for them somewhat soon. He knows our air power in the region is broken. If he thinks our carriers have left, then he may make a move for Palembang sooner rather than later, but I don't know. He's taken the southern portion of the Dutch East Indies. Celebes is almost all his. Timor, Flores, Somba, all of that. Ambon is still holding out, although there's no real supply left here. You can see that our troops at the Sparrow Battalion are very low on supply, so honestly, once he attacks there, they'll fold pretty quick. Borneo is almost entirely his. We're still holding out at Kuching, but again, similar situation where we're pretty much out of supply, so as soon as he attacks there, it will fall. Mindanao, meanwhile, is holding out at Kaigan. No supply here, so these guys are going to fall soon, but all the units currently have supply. So if he attacked tomorrow, I think we would hold. But if he waits another week or so, that may no longer be the case. We had been running supply in from Tarakan into Mindanao right before the last attack, and we had also run quite a bit of supply into the Philippines as well. The Philippines still have 21,000 supply because we brought over 20,000 supply into the Philippines via AKLs and other things like that. So we're actually still pretty good there. We haven't been building the defenses up, mainly because I've been trying to keep the supply situation under check, so that may lead to a more rapid decline of our troops there, but currently it's a level 4 fortification. He's bombing it pretty heavy, so I don't feel like wasting supply building forts that aren't going to get built up. Sub-supply into Ambon? Maybe. I don't know. He's got a brigade there anyway. He can probably take it if he gives it some time. Yeah. Meanwhile, in China, he's taken Changsha. Obviously, he's driving east. You can see here he has what looks like they're just blocking forces now. He had like 20 plus units here at these two roadways just east of Chikikang, but now he seems to have stopped pursuing us. So he's definitely going to be shifting his troops elsewhere, I would assume. Our troops at Chikikang, meanwhile, you can see here 54 assault value. They're low on supply, but that's largely because they just are drawing to fill up their supply situation. We also are giving some units replacements and upgrades to try and build these units up a little bit more to let them get their strength up a bit. And I think we've seen our assault value go up by like 400 or so in the last couple of turns since we stopped retreating there. We also have a force of about 1,800 assault value to the north of Chikikang, blocking both avenues across this river here so that he has to shock attack into bad terrain in either event. We are moving a little bit more reinforcements down there to get it probably around a 2,400 assault value. Meanwhile, I am shifting more troops south to hold Luchou and Guilin since I think he's going to swing around. I don't imagine we'll be able to hold either of these places, but it's more about delaying him and buying time for ourselves in China. We're also trying to build up Tuyan because that's the next likely defensive point as he moves north. He could move up this other roadway here as well. Guilin is important because he could move north along this bad roadway, but if that is the reality, we can always pull troops out of Chikikang, and then I think we're moving one unit down here to this river crossing here just to the south as well. So we're kind of making a defensive stand on this river here, and then also to the south here at Tuyan based on the terrain advantages that we have there. In the north, he is moving, by the looks of it, on Xi'an. We have moved some troops to the east of Xi'an here. There's 2 Chinese corps. Oh, wow, their supply just tanked. I was going to move them all the way east over here into some better terrain, but their supply, when they got just 1 hex away from Xi'an, just went into the red. We might have to slow them up a bit. I might be moving too many units in the Chinese theater. Meanwhile, I think we're moving some of these guys too, aren't we? So some of these guys are going to move to this province next turn. Not all of them. Yeah, not all of them. But we are moving some guys into this nearby hex as well, mainly trying to take advantage of the terrain. So this is rough terrain. This is rough terrain. If he brings troops east from Luoyang, then I want to block him here. If he brings troops north from Nanyang, then I want to obviously hit them here. He's got 4 units here, so he is obviously building up for a thrust towards Xi'an. But the other thing that we're also doing is now that we pulled a large force out of Nanyang to the west, it seems like he's ignored them and he's moving these guys north because he only had 2 or 3 brigades here. So if that is the case, I'm going to try and swing this force of about 2,000 assault or 1,500 assault value into his rear and see if we can't take Nanyang as it's somewhat under garrisoned, and then maybe we can destroy this Japanese force of 4 units to the north here. Hey, Craig Mon, thanks for the follow. Minsuri99, thanks for the follow. I'm Whippets, thanks for the follow. And Joey, I already thanked you. No, you have too many units inside your bases. This is like a supply export stop. What do you mean by that, Pat? I don't understand. Okay. I'll probably pull some of these troops out north to this roadway up here. Once I get the engineering level built up a little bit more. I'm trying to get this to level 4 forts, and then I'll probably start dispersing troops that'll pull some engineers away. I'm playing as all of the allies. I'm Whippets. Well, he doesn't even have close to 3 times the supply requested or required. We are putting a bunch of supply into Rangoon to try and filter extra supply into China for what it's worth. So we have 46,000 supply currently in Rangoon. We're unloading additional supply. 25,000 is currently in the port between these 2 task forces. We also just had one other task force or 2 other task forces empty out and start pulling their ships west. We have another task force coming in probably tomorrow of 43,000 more supply that's going to dock in Rangoon. And then we also have another 31,000 and 126,000 supply just sitting in the Bay of Bengal up here ready to come south. Probably need a little bit better recon in the Bay of Bengal. I have almost none to make sure that he doesn't like sneak a surface raiding task force up that way. That would be pretty bad. But he also doesn't have any recon over the... Oh, some of these ships do have recon. Darn. Where's that coming from? Since these guys are probably going to be sitting here for a while, why don't we move them into Calcutta? Just to be safe. And we just won't have them unload. Okay. All right, so that's the situation there. We are preparing for potentially a counterattack down toward Molmun. We know there's 2 Royal Thai Army divisions down here, and my thought is it would be kind of interesting if we could bring the 1st Burma Division, which is about 314 assault value, and then also the British 18th Infantry Division, which just got into Burma, 439 assault value, and then maybe 1 Indian Infantry Division as well, and move down toward Molmun and try and crush those 2 Thai divisions and get a few victory points there, and maybe short-circuit any advance he has on Burma potentially. I don't know if we'd want to move into Thailand or not. I think if you move into Indochina, you draw up enemy militia. He gets like free divisions that rise up, some militia divisions. I don't know if that's true for Thailand or not. I'm hoping it's not, but I'm not 100% sure. Okay. Relative fleet strengths at this war. I mean, the Japanese are obviously much stronger than we are. We have our carriers up to the northwest here of India, or of Australia, sorry. They're coming down from an operation near Singapore where we shot down like 80 enemy aircraft over Singapore. We know his Kido Butai is out here between Christmas Island and Palmyra. They're in the midst of a raid here. You can see they might be splitting up into multiple task forces here based on the looks of it. So maybe they're going to try and jump in amongst our supply lines and kind of rip things apart a bit. We've got 1 cargo ship here east that he has not spotted. Light Clouds. He has not been running a lot of recon, I don't think, out this way. Meanwhile, we are pulling other ships back to Pago just to be safe. We also have this task force down here, which is bringing 27,000 supply to New Zealand. These guys are pulling back to Pago as well to try and stay out of harm's way. We've got fuel down here on the way to Melbourne, a small 2-ship task force. We've got a much larger task force to the south here that's on the way to Melbourne as well. I'm wondering if they might want to make a stop. I think I've got oilers at Tahiti to top their tanks off. So we might want to do that. Yeah, these guys have fuel. So we might want to have these tankers top their bunkers off here at Tahiti. And I'll form the task force over there so that they get topped off, because they're going so far south they really don't have the fuel for it to bring additional fuel into Australia. We've really sort of broken up most of our convoys due to the fact that the carriers were there. So we have a few convoys that are still on their way into Pearl with some fuel, some surface task forces, some more fuel up here, and then we've got some aircraft which are going to be flying into Pearl as well. Although these guys must be out of fuel, so that's great. God damn it. Do not retire. Stay on station. Stay here. They should move 1 hex west on their next turn. We're going to move these guys here. Last thing I need is him like detecting like, oh, there's a ship with no fuel and my sub can just hit a floating target with a squadron of bombers on board. Granted, it's not a ton of bombers, but it would still kind of suck. Does he have detection on them? He does not. So we'll send these guys north. Hopefully they'll refuel those other guys at sea. These guys are docked and unloading over 20,000 fuel. So I've used about 100,000 fuel at Pearl. I'm trying to replenish my stores there before things get too dire. And largely huddling in place. So he's throwing our he is throwing a lot of our convoy routes into a little bit of turmoil. We've got a lot of ships that are on their way back from the Australia Gambit. And then we've also taken perhaps the mistaken decision to send a bunch of our transports here off map to sprint in toward Australia from the west, which is obviously a very slow proposition. I think it takes like a month or so to get into position, but it was a decision that I made. I don't think these guys... I'm not sure if they use... I think they do use fuel off map. I was trying to flank speed them to see if they did or not. But they're still like 86%. But some of the units don't even gain any time by switching their speeds. Yeah, they definitely use fuel. Okay. So we're going to lose a day there by switching them down. I don't think we'll lose any time there. I wasn't really looking. We'll lose 2 days here. Okay. All right. So that's the situation there. Some transports arrived, or cargo ships arrived back at San Francisco there. Some transports arrived back at San Diego here. Our political point situation isn't great yet. We've got 356 political points. I'm trying to add them up so I can get some more units unlocked. I've broken up the 40th Infantry Division because I would love to get these guys into the Pacific. They're currently restricted, but I think I need, how many more days? 8 more days, and then I can unlock 1/3 of the 40th Infantry Division and get this unit into action, which would be a great unit to have in action. You can see it's got more than like 3 different variants of howitzers here. 24 105 millimeters, 455 millimeters, M8 half tracks, M8 armored cars, M2 half tracks, engineer vehicles, motorized support, 81 millimeter mortars, 37 millimeter anti-tank guns, heavy machine gun groups, 91 rifle squads, combat engineers as well. I want to eventually form this whole division, but to do the whole division would require probably about a month of spending political points on nothing. Actually, more than a month, probably about a month and a half spending political points on nothing else. But if I can at least get one of these units in, 130 assault value for a good unit like this, with 52 experience too, that's pretty well trained, and get into the South Pacific, that could be very useful. Do I not have any unrestricted units co-evoking? Yeah, I mean, I do. So I've sent a lot of them into place. So you can see here we've got the, some support units here. We've got the 161st Infantry Regiment is at Nadi, which was unrestricted, and we sent it here. We also have the 2nd Marine, or actually, sorry, 8th Marine Regiment here is at Pago. We have the 2nd Marine Regiment here at Vavu. So we've been strengthening our hold on sort of the Tonga, Fiji, Pago, or the Samoa, Fiji, Tonga Islands group. Not a lot is unrestricted on the East Coast. We've basically, as soon as anything is unrestricted, we pull it out of the East Coast. We do have some support units here that we'd be better off getting them like out to Australia or other things like that, but we've been moving higher priority units at the moment. We do have elements of the 3rd 102nd Infantry Battalion which we will be transporting to Australia. We also have other elements of that same regiment here. This is an independent regiment already on their way to Australia, so we'll form it up into a full-strength unit in Australia once we can get there. CD. Coastal defense? CD means coastal defense, so they have like heavy anti-shipping guns. Most of them are like these guys here. I don't think the San Diego Harbor defenses, they're static. I can't move them. But they've also got like battleship-sized guns. The 276 has smaller guns, 155 millimeters. And they're not static. I can move them. I'd love to get the 7th Mountain. I think they're permanently restricted to the West Coast. Is it possible to launch an offensive into one of his held islands? Maybe for someone better at the game than me. Probably not very possible at this stage in the war. I shouldn't say not possible. Is it possible? Yes. Is it advisable? No. Not at this stage in the war. I'm going to stand all these bombers down. They are getting chewed up. Not losing a lot of actual like shot down or destroyed aircraft, but they're not in good shape, should we say. Any MDY? I don't know what MDYs are, P. Warner. We also did, by the way, just get some Kitty Hawks for the Australians. That was nice. Apparently we pulled... Why are there 8 in reserve? I mean, I guess it's our only squadron, but you pulled them out of the pool just to sit in reserve? Or 6 in reserve. Yeah, I mean, I put a bunch of Marine defense units in, so like he's currently over by Palmyra. I've put the 2nd Marine Raider Defense Battalion, 4th Marine Defense Battalion, 2nd Marine Raider Battalion. Then we've got the Palmyra Defense Battalion. We've put a Canadian brigade into Christmas Island in the south here, as well as the 1st Marine Raider Battalion. We've got Marine Defense Battalions up at Johnston Island, the 2nd and 3rd Marine Defense Battalions, as well as the Johnson Defense Battalion. So that's the one silver lining here is these guys will have a fair, I think, I don't see a lot of coastal guns there. 75mm anti-aircraft guns. I could potentially chew some stuff up. But these guys have 6-inch coastal guns, 5-inch coastal guns, 3-inch coastal guns. That's 6 coastal guns, 6, 5, and 3-inchers. Johnson Defense also has 5-inch coastal guns and 3-inch coastal guns. So we've got 12 coastal defense guns at Johnston Island. We've also pulled other troops south here into Auckland. So we've got the 2nd USMC Tank Battalion. Probably shouldn't be in strat mode anymore, right? We should probably switch them over to rest so they can train. 70 experience. Wow, this is a good unit. 36 Stuart light tanks, M2A4 light tanks. I'm not familiar with the M2A4. Probably not very good. But they're down here in New Zealand, working on building New Zealand's defenses up. Unloading some fuel and supplies here at Auckland, which has about 40,000 fuel and 46,000 supply. We lost sight of his carriers. He had light carriers off the west coast of Australia. Not sure where they went. He is on the verge of taking Port Moresby, which is bad. Very bad. 200 garrison value there. We're at level 1 forts. We're half the way to level 2. He hasn't been bombing there either, so depending on how long he waits to pull supplies, we might get back up to level 2. Auckland, is it an urban hex? I don't know. Nope, Auckland is clear. But it's also sort of the choke point landing area. So if he lands for an easier landing up at Wapa, Turkey, like I don't want to put my... That's not how you pronounce that. I don't want to put my troops up here because then they're easily cut off. I don't want to put my troops down here because then it can easily land and move inland. So, I mean, if a landing looks like it's going to materialize, I might move him back to Hamilton and then rush him forward once he's ashore. But most of the northern island in New Zealand is not super defensible. The one exception might be Wellington in the south. We've put together sort of a tripwire here at Norfolk. We're still trying to unload supply, although it looks like we finally got a little bit of it unloaded. We're sending troop transports to Fiji. I don't know why they're split into two task forces. But we're sending them into Suva. We're going to pull a U.S. base force unit out of Suva. We're going to put it on Raoul Island. And it's not a good base, but I am going to build it up to level 1 airfield, so then I can shuttle aircraft between New Zealand, Raoul, and up to Pago. I'm also curious about those P-38s that we were looking at playing around with. Here's some. So this P-38 group, you need 25 fighters to replace their aircraft. I don't have enough to do that. I will have enough Airacobras in a day, probably, to do that. So I could upgrade them to Airacobras. That would bring the P-38s into the pool for us. We have one P-38 Lightning. We have multiple more on the way. It takes up to 7 days for the aircraft to get into the pool. But I'm debating building like 1 or 2 P-38 squadrons and moving them into Rangoon. We don't produce any of the aircraft yet, which means that they're kind of, you can definitely grind them down, but they're not bad to have. You can see here the bulk of our fighters over Rangoon are in good shape. They're set to 50 and 60 and 70% cap levels. 23 Airacobras here. 20 P-40 Warhawks here. Could pull some from the pools to fill them out. Also, didn't I leave a couple behind? It's a bang. Yeah, one of the Airacobras is behind, or 2 of them are behind. So they'll fly back there and rejoin. One Airacobra, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. But that's the situation right now. So, not a lot happened this turn. Let's take a look at the ship losses. We had the battle around Tarakan. We lost the Campania Filipinas near Exmouth to Japanese torpedoes. What was that guy doing out there? Oh, we sent someone to give more supply near Carnivos, didn't we? Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe they were going to the north coast. I can't really remember. Fast Transport did drop its 400 supplies at Port Hedland, so you can see the entire north coast of Australia now has supply again. We ran a supply route into Broome, dropped about 800, which is supplying both Broome and Derby, and then we also dropped 400 of it at Port Hedland. So our AMC Fast Transport is on the way back to Perth. We also have these light cruisers sort of providing a shield for different shipping here if the enemy tried to send a raiding convoy down toward Perth. Sylvan Mad, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. But you can see they're up in this general vicinity, and we're trying to get our carriers out undetected. I've been toying around, by the way, the fact that I pulled more fuel out of Palembang, or more oil out of Palembang, and more fuel out of Java. If these guys get away scot-free, I'm super tempted to just occasionally send a tanker into Oosthaven and Tijlap as long as I can until he starts sending some of his aircraft on naval attack missions. It doesn't seem, I think most of them currently are on recon patrols because he's looking for our carriers in the area, and that let us pull like 12,000 additional fuel and oil out. But it's such a short route from Java to Australia. We've already pulled over 300,000 fuel into Australia, so it is such a short route to just be able to do that and basically fund the Australian economy via the Dutch East Indies rather than sending them all the way from the U.S. Also, the fact that we've been able to do that largely has made his New Caledonia expedition more or less meaningless because we've got a much better local source of supply. Now that he's shut down, he had been sinking with subs and with some aircraft at Oosthaven, some of our ships, and we stopped transporting that way, that kind of meant, now we have to do the long transport from the west coast and whatnot. But if I can keep those Hurricanes around and have them fly cap, that was one of the other things. An idea was to send a large oiler convoy to Tijlap and Oosthaven, leave the carriers in the area, and then ambush any strike force he might send after him with our fighter aircraft. But that would also require keeping our carriers stationary for too long, longer, frankly, than I want to do. So probably won't do that. All right, so Holbrook got into Brisbane safely, which is good. These destroyers got here as well. We'll disband them there. We pulled most of our shipping out of Brisbane south to Melbourne, mainly to minimize the risk from air attacks out of Nomaya. They can't quite reach there yet, I don't think. Certainly not with torpedoes. This Warhawk group has till the 15th. These guys have till the 15th as well, but we've got 50 fighters at Brisbane, or Brisbane. We actually have 98 aircraft here. What is all here? We got some B-17s, some Catalinas, some Banshees. Mainly move these aircraft in to counter any Japanese carrier strike. Then we've also got the Wildebeests and the Banshees and the Kitty Hawks north here. We're transporting the Royal Australian Base Force to Townsville. And then I've got my Whirlways. I think I've also got 16 Hurricanes and Blenheims on the way to Brisbane as well via rail. All right, Pat, I'll take a look at it. Hey, Nimcross. Thanks, dude. Glad to hear it. Perhaps Iron Duke, but Sydney is also more exposed. Melbourne is nice and huddled back in the rear in an area where I think it's unlikely he will send any carriers down there. And I'm a coward, so I hide. Let's take a look at ship availability. I think the Hornet's just a couple days away. 5 days away till we get the USS Hornet. East Coast, though, so it'll be a while before we can use it. Comes in with partial air groups of Helldivers? Did they have the Helldiver this early? Wasn't that the replacement to the Dauntless? Maybe not Iron, but I sank 2 or 3 Japanese submarines with B-17s in a skip bombing port attack. That was nice. Okay. What else is coming here? So 2 days till we get the Thomas Berry, an AP at Los Angeles. We get some destroyers in 3 days in Cape Town, some tankers in Abadan, carrier in 5 days. The Vincennes is 5 days. Okay. Group reinforcement schedule. So let's see what we get. So these three, so the Hurricanes and the Blenheims that we're sending from Perth are currently on rail. They'll be there in 3 days. We're getting SB2U3 Vindicators in San Francisco in 4 days. In 5 days, we get some Wildcats and Helldivers on the Hornet, as well as Devastators. We also get some Buffaloes in San Francisco. Those will be great. R4D1 Skytrains. Those are some nice transport aircraft in Pearl Harbor. I wonder if I can fly them around to Australia. 30 max range might make it difficult. I think we can make it, just barely. Some more Kitty Hawks arrive in 8 days in Brisbane, so we start to see the Royal Australian Air Force pick up just as we have to pull out. That's good, though. So we've got 50 P-40s that we have to withdraw in 2 weeks. So the fact that we just got 16 Kitty Hawks in Townsville, and then in 8 days we get 16 more, that'll help offset some of those fighter losses. We also get the Formidable, the British aircraft carrier Formidable, in 9 days. And we also get Kitty Hawks in Perth, so we'll have 48 Kitty Hawks arriving inside 2 weeks. So before we have to pull those American P-40s back, they'll be replaced by better squadrons with better pilots in Kitty Hawks in Australia, so that'll help. THX, mainland Australia saw very limited action in terms of like actual combat. The Japanese did do a carrier raid on Darwin that sank a bunch of merchant ships in Darwin. So there was a carrier attack on the northern coast of Australia during World War II. Outside of that, there were a lot of ships that were based in the area. There was fighting in the Coral Sea, obviously, which is just off the Australian coast. but there wasn't, I don't think there were any raids on Rockhampton or Bowen or Townsville or anything like that in the actual war. The reason it's relevant is Port Moresby is going to fall in the next couple of days, and when that falls, it does open the opportunity for him to launch an invasion against Northern Australia, if he so desires. Although I don't think he has the manpower to do it at this time. Oh, the Japanese did bomb Townsville and Cairns in World War II? Okay, good to know. Did not know that. They made a commando raid on the northwest coast? Really? Huh. I don't know a ton about the Pacific Theater, apparently. But in any event, guys, I think that's probably going to do it for today's episode. It'd probably be another day. I don't think I'll turn this around to XTRG till tomorrow evening, so he probably won't get back to me right away. But you won't see it again tomorrow or something like that. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. We've been going for about an hour, 20 minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts as always. Just stick around in the chat for a little bit to chat if you guys have any other specific questions. But for the moment, I think I'm just going to say thanks again to all the new followers. We got quite a few of them. Thanks for the bits, like a G-Men. Also, thanks for the resub, Stein, if you're still around. And to all my other subscribers and followers, thanks for the continued support. And as always, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm out.